Now, my name is Tim, and I'm here to answer the first part of the question for this week's post. Compare Luis and Fidel's definition of restorative justice with the one we have read in this week's text. This week's text is the ethic of traditional communities and the spirit of healing justice, studies from Hollow Water, the Iona community, and Plum Village by Jerem Sawatsky. So when referring to Hollow Water, I'm talking about that found in Sawatsky's book. To me, there is a common thread that all have experienced that informed the need for restorative justice. Luis, a gang member, a minority living in a community that contrasted his own. Fidel living in Santa Barbara, almost under the same pretenses, getting in trouble with the law. Hollow Water community, the Ojibwe tribe of Native Americans, that all have experienced situations that call for restorative justice and healing. For Luis, restorative justice is reconnecting people. He says that connecting with people is what makes us human, connecting to community, to family, one's own self, and nature. For the Hollow Water community, restorative justice comes in the form of understanding that those at Hollow Water have discovered that abuse is about losing one's identity and that the healing path is about rediscovering identity. This is done through the Holistic Circle Healing Organization. For Fidel, his restorative justice came through education and knowledge that was afforded him in a book about Malcolm X, to be exact. This, he claims, sparked his interest into finding his own identity, who he was. Just like Hollow Creek, the healing path is rediscovering one's identity. We see this with Luis's explanation of restorative justice and almost fits into what those at Hollow Water are trying to accomplish. Those at Hollow Water believe that to understand what healing justice is, at Hollow Water, it is necessary to understand their pre colonial vision and practices. Luis explains the same concept as going back to the indigenous cosmology, back to how the people lived in the beginning. Luis refers to some old traditions, traditional practices like sweat lodges and such. The dialogue between Professor Said and Fidel uses the analogy of a wound and to understand what the wound is. I think for all three, they are concerned to find out what the actual underlying causes are. I think that calls for the need to return to the beginning. Fidel says that stories are the medicine that assist us into healing those wounds. Luis is the poet laureate of Los Angeles. He tells a story. Fidel draws on his past to tell his story. The people of Hollow Water tell their story, so I'm inclined to believe that it is not just the end result, as Professor Said said in the Fidel interview, but rather the story. The journey that informs us is what eventually heals us.